Hey folks, welcome back to Planet Tyro. I'm your host Donald Wonder, and I am in front of the camera to do a book and movie review for something that has really just blown my mind. This is a case of rarely in life you find out things you just like, how the hell have I never heard of this before? This is just absolutely blows my mind. Anyway, I want to give a shout out to my girl, Milady A, code name. Hopefully we can get her on a podcast as well. She's actually a narrator as well, so I'm sorry to put you on blast. She recommended a book to me that I never heard of because I'm always looking for good books and I haven't done a book review in a while. And this one has implications to today because just a couple of weeks ago there was a massive development in this book's awareness or whatever. Anyway, so we're going to talk about the immortal life of Henrietta Lacks. I had to edit that because I wasn't sure I got the name right. Henrietta Lacks. And to cut a long story short, this is a book about a black lady that was who died in the 1950s, and her cells are very unique, have been very unique in history. For her cells, her human cells, are responsible for helping cure the polio virus, advances in the AIDS virus, because her cells are immortal. They never stop replicating. There's no other human cells that do this. This one woman, her cells. And when Milady told me about this book, I actually thought it was a science fiction book. But this is true. This woman really existed. That's what really blew my mind. I'm like, what? There's this woman. There was a black lady in the 1950s. She died of cancer, and her cells were so unique that scientists, when they harvested her cells, they were able to use it to make so many advances in medicine that she's one of the most important people in science, in biology, in history, because of her cells. That's not just me. I'm not saying it because I'm black. Honestly, this is news to me. All my life, I never heard of this woman. I never knew who I never heard her name before. I never learned about her in school. Even in my 33 years of life, I never came across her story, which is mind-blowing. Now, here's the thing. Let's talk about, because there's a book, and just a couple weeks ago, there was a HBO movie where Oprah Winfrey plays the main character in this story, because this story is so special, so unique, and so relevant to human beings, not black people, not white people. This woman's cells has so much implications to human beings, and it's got so much to do with history, with science, and as a black movie as well. Let me talk about the book. The book is fantastic. The woman who wrote it, I can't remember her name. I'm going to put it on the screen here. This book is like 4 books in one. It's a book about the Lacks family. It's a book about the woman writing the book. It's a book about the daughter of Henrietta Lacks. And it's a book about science and law, and how even the law of human cells and not telling patients. There's so much to this book. This book is so dense that the things it covers, and honestly, guys, the reason why I loved this book is because it was a human story. It was a story about science. It was a story about biology. It was a story about life. It was about injustice. This book covers so many things, and it's a true fucking story about a woman who's immortal. Her cells are immortal. This woman I think she's in the Guinness World Book of Records as well. But and her family, by the way, obviously she had a lot of kids. Her family don't have the same kind of cells, but there was a lot of things that went wrong. Just to give you, I don't want to ruin her life story or anything, but there's things with this woman, like, you know, when the doctors were treating her for cancer, apparently they took her cells without her permission. A lot of people made money on reselling her cells for science investigations. The family never made anything. People made millions off this black woman's cells Not only that, they didn't use her real name. Some scientists didn't want people to know it was a black person. There was so much prejudice. I mean, it was the I think it was the 1950s when, 50s time of segregation, racism. So, look, man, I know people love that movie that just came out, Hidden Figures or whatever. I think this woman's story, without a doubt, is even more important than Hidden Figures, just because this woman's blood cells has such a positive effect on the world and on science, and on top of that, her story, the family story, although I'm not gonna lie, the Lax's story, their family story isn't anything unique. Honestly, it's a very horrible story where they've got a lot of inbreeding, a lot of violence, sex, jail, all that stuff. But honestly, actually another big part of the story is, I don't want to ruin it again. It's a true story, but I don't want to ruin it because honestly, it's very interesting. The Laxes, after their mother passed away, they didn't know their mum, and they finding out, scientists were calling them afterwards to see if they can get more blood from them. It's really crazy. The book is phenomenal, and the woman who wrote the book, whose name I can't remember again, the book was so dense and has so much information. Here's the thing about the book. The criticism I have for the book is the same thing I have about the praise. The book is got so much information in the book about about the Lax family, about the advance in science, about the law of human cells, and about the writer as well. It's so dense. It sometimes has too much information, especially on the scientific stuff. But the reason why she wrote it that way is because the Lax family, never understood for years what their mother cells actually did. And they wanted someone to write a book that finally explains once and for all everything. And the woman who wrote this book went out of her way to chronicle not only the family's life and her journey with the family and their mother's journey, but the science and the law. And man, I'm telling you, there's so many twists and turns with this woman's life, and it isn't just about the Laxes. That's what makes this book so interesting. It's about the law. It's about doctors. It's about science. It's about how this woman's cells cured honestly, this book really touched me in so many ways, because I was bothered by the fact that this woman's name isn't known widely, and that's, there's a conspiracy element to that. And it's just sad that this woman and her cells and her family, they're just not known. They didn't get any reparations, and it isn't even about that. It's just, I didn't even know this. Even if she wasn't black, to be honest with you, it doesn't matter who she is. Just the fact one woman's cells has been growing infinitely, and her cells, so many scientists have her cells and use her cells to test it to cure diseases. It's been in space. It's like, wow. I don't care what color she is. It's just a phenomenal story. Now, after reading the book, I read the audiobook, by the way, which was fantastic, but get the book, the book is great. HBO, I wanted them to make a movie. As soon as I finished reading the book, I was like, I can't wait for them to make a movie. This is going to make a great movie or a great mini-series. Then I find out by some coincidental miracle of kismet that the same week I finished the book, HBO just released a movie of this woman, of this same book that I just read that I really adored. And Oprah Winfrey produced it and did a joint venture with HBO. Oprah Winfrey was so passionate about the story as much as I am now. She put herself in the main role, not as the mum, not as Henrietta Lacks, because she dies very early in the story, but as the daughter who's on a journey to find out about her mum. Let me tell you something about Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey is a phenomenal actress. I mean, whenever she acts, and she obviously doesn't act a lot because she was a TV presenter for so long, she just throws herself in the role. The last movie we saw her before this, I think it was The Butler, or she was in Selma, but a mini role. Her acting is so great. I knew that from The Color Purple, which is probably her most memorable role, and some other roles as well. But her performance in this HBO movie is great. Unfortunately, the movie itself is not that good. Sorry, I gotta be honest. The HBO movie of The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks is not good, for the simple reason it's a 1 hour and a half movie, and they're just trying to cram 50 years of content the book itself doesn't have 50 years of content, but the book, in my mind, this needs to be at the minimum a 6-episode miniseries, because this book covers so many things, and a praise to the book is it's got so much variety. It's got the human story with the family, it's got the scientific story, it's got lawsuits, it's got humor. The book is so fantastically written well. And the movie, my fear for the movie, it was going to be a Lifetime movie. It was just going to cram everything I feared about the movie came to pass. So I wouldn't recommend the movie unless you're not going to read the book. And honestly, the book is so important. Without a doubt, this is a book that should be in every school, because this woman's cells should be a part of science class. And I'm just baffled that I wasn't taught this in school, because it's interesting. It's very interesting. I'm telling you, even if you don't give a shit about cells, there's a human element, there's a law element, there's so much. This book is so relevant. You know, it's still relevant because her cells are still being used to cure diseases. They say without her cells, the advances, there's so many advances in medicine that wouldn't happen without Henrietta Lacks's cells. And I just can't believe that this story isn't more well known. Now, to be fair, the book itself was a New York Times bestseller for 6 years. I still never heard of it. And it honestly, it's an injustice. I feel kind of ashamed that I didn't know about the book. But then when I was talking to someone about the book, they were just telling me that there's a reason why people don't know Henrietta Lacks's name. And I don't want to get into the conspiracy element of this, but I love the book. The book is absolutely fantastic. If you can get on Audible, please get it. It's something I feel needs to be known. It's just interesting, whether you like science, whether you like history, whether you like things about true stories. But honestly, the only thing I will say about the HBO movie is the acting's great. Rose Byrne playing the writer as well. The acting is good. They just rushed it. You can't rush a story like this. You can't rush a story. It's like 3 generations. The book is told in the past, present, and future. It goes back and forward. It's so detailed. The book is dense. That is the main criticism. The book is very, very, very dense. The writer doesn't leave any stone unturned in this story of the woman, her family, herself, and the law and the science, and it is so fucking fantastic. Without a doubt, it's a high first class. And I had problems with the book because it even got to me emotionally, just because there was a lot of injustice. There's a lot of things that doesn't make me feel right. And let me tell you something. One of the things I want you guys to know this. One of the reasons, which I think is very noble, that the author wrote this book is because she said doctors and scientists don't treat their patients well. And putting Henrietta Lacks aside, they don't explain things well. This has been a historical fact. When you talk about doctors' bedside manner, they can be pretty poor. And if you're having a complicated procedure, you get really arseholish doctors. And this story with Henrietta Lacks is a perfect example of scientists and doctors. It's not even that they don't care, they just don't treat people like humans. And whether you're black, white, brown, Asian, doctors can be fucking assholes. And believe me, another reason why this book resonates with so many people is that people can relate to this story, especially with doctors and scientists. As mostly with doctors, you know, they can go out of their way just to push you aside because they don't want to explain things to you. And although in 2017, in our modern times, we have laws in place, back in the day it wasn't that way. But to be honest with you, this still goes on today. And this book, I think the writer said she wrote this book mostly for scientists to read and to understand that we're all humans. When you're doing your blood tests and your cultures and you're curing diseases and you're using people, you know, we're not guinea pigs. We're people, and you need to talk to us. Scientists need to be more clearer. Even me as a technician, even when I'm helping people, when you're teaching someone something, you need to be clear. It needs to be clear understanding, because I'm telling you, man, things like this can happen. And believe me, Henrietta Lacks, although she's a very special case with infinite cells, the thing that happened to her and her family has happened to so many people, even me on a level which I'm not going to get into. That's why this kind of resonates with me as well on a personal level. Something like this with doctors happened to me. You know, it's a really good cautionary tale even though these things don't happen as much today, the book is great. The HBO mini movie, I wouldn't recommend it unless you just want to know the woman and understand it. But the movie just doesn't do a good job. It feels like another one of those stories, another Lifetime story about someone that had some historical relevance that is important. But when you watch it, honestly just feels like a Lifetime movie. They had the right talent, but you can't do this in the movie. I hope they do this again because it's very interesting, but it needs a series. That's the problem with the movie. I wouldn't recommend it. But if you just want to know, you don't want to read the book, fine, watch the HBO series. But I'm just warning you that it wasn't done very well, and they just cram all this information. It's on speed, and they changed a lot. I'm not gonna lie. If you read the book, they changed a lot of it for convenience, and that's not even the problem. But let me leave it at that. I don't want to rattle on and on and on. But honestly, this is a book I will give to anyone. It's very, very, very interesting. Very interesting. It's not about being black. It's actually not about race. And when I read the reviews on Goodreads and Audible, they were just saying the same thing. This is not a race book. This is a book about the history of science and how this person's cells and changed the world. And yes, the ramifications they had on the family and the injustice they had on the family. And honestly, it's a really big learning story. It's got a big heart to it, the story. And I'm going to buy the book on principle. Just on principle, because, again, this should be taught in schools. So I had to bring awareness to this, even though I do apologize. This will probably come off as a 15-20 minute ramble about how great the book is. The story resonated and connected with me. Check out, I'm going to put a link in the description for an audiobook sample or a link to the book, because that's how much I really recommend it. But again, check out the HBO drama if you just want to know the story and be done with it, because I guess it serves that purpose at the minimum. But anyway, did you know who Henrietta was? Because I didn't. If you did, let me know in the comments down below, because honestly, if you don't know about this woman, even just read the Wikipedia page, you'll be like, really? For real? That's all I can say. Anyway, guys, I've rambled on long enough. Thanks for watching. Hit the annotation on the side there for all the other stuff you do on Planet Tyro. And I'm going to save another book review for another day. Maybe something more just fictiony. And, maybe this was too real for some people. But either way, thank you for listening to me prattle on. And I'll see you on the next video.